Oh, welcome. Right, I've got a 2014 RS4, Audi RS4. Last week before, it spluttered a little bit and then conked out, just literally no power at all. Pulled over to the side of the road, left it for a couple of minutes, tried to start it again, very, very lumpy, that's a good expression, and it just stalled. Did it again, did the exact same thing. It started, but it sounded like it was firing on 1 or 2 cylinders, nothing at all. Left it for about 5 minutes, started to decide and think I might have to call recovery, key back in again, boom, straight away, absolutely perfect, pulled away reluctantly, no problem since. And that was, I'd probably say more 3 weeks ago. Today, exactly the same situation again, and it seems to happen after it's been sat down. So the last time it probably did it 3/4 mile up the road, this time about 3/4 mile up the road as well. So morning, start up, absolutely fine, drive 3/4 up the road, and then bang, no power at all, cruise to the side, nothing. This time, today, it is just literally turning over and then starting very, very lumpy and then going back off again. And it's been doing that pretty much all morning. We've had a couple of stints when we've left it and let it cool down a little bit, where it started and run okay, then gone lumpy and then conked out probably 20, 30, 40 seconds afterwards. So it's sounding like there's a lack of fuel getting through somehow. I've gone on to YouTube to try and find if there's any issues. I can't find anything at all. There's people on there changing fuel filters. Again, depending whether you've got a B7 or a B8, this is a B8. On the B8, in fact, let me show you because I've been stripping it apart. In the B8, it's actually in a plastic housing that's actually under the back seat in the fuel tank. So yeah, obviously it couldn't be a B7 where I think it's actually located underneath, obviously. It's actually inside the fuel tank. And to make matters worse, I've taken mine out and there's only 2 or 3 videos on YouTube showing you how to do it. The filter is different to mine. So I'm going to film in the hope I can try and fix this and obviously pass on the information to you guys. But at the moment, I really am a little bit struck down by lack of knowledge. So I'll show you what I've done so far. And before you start, I mean, I'm not in control. So my car had over half a tank in it. You can't physically open up the filter housing to get into the pump to find the filter when you've got over half a tank. As soon as you start undoing it, petrol just pours out underneath the seat. So I've had to literally open mine up, let it leak, suck the water, petrol, put it into a container and keep doing that till it stops. Then I'll be able to open it up softly and be able to drain a bit more out. So if anybody has this problem that's got over half a tank, then unfortunately it's going to be a tank down, drain out situation, unfortunately. So let me spin it around and show you where I am so far. Okay, so it's been an absolute ball. Like I've even tried jacking it up and leaning the car that way to try and get the fuel going that way. Because obviously you can see that the tank itself is the shape of the seat. So obviously when it says it's full, I'm assuming that it literally fills up the underneath of the seat. Obviously that bit goes down first, which takes you level. Now I actually put these sheets in there because it has been an absolute nightmare. So as you can see, there's a few cables that are hanging out here. And there's some top pieces. I'll show you how to put all that back on a bit later on if I ever get this solved. But as you can see, I've drained out some fuel, plus taken the actual floats and everything out of here. Has obviously managed to let it low down a little bit. But the actual fuel itself is a disgusting colour. So it's probably part of the issue. Obviously, we've got bad fuel and it's clogged up somewhere. So anyway, this is the actual replacement filter that I was told from registration and chassis number that I needed. They all look very, very similar, and everyone online is showing the same thing. Quite a tall and thin looking unit. As you can see, I put a new O-ring on there, and that's waiting to be plugged in, and then the earth itself gets plugged onto one of these. There it is at the top. So that's obviously what's meant to be going back in. But at the moment, all the ones online that I'm seeing, as you can see by this length, by the time it actually goes in, mine's longer than the actual one that's in there at the moment. Now, whether this is a genuine one or the original one, I've got no idea. But it's fatter and rounder. Now, what they actually say is that the filters themselves come with these little 3 slides. And what you're meant to do is slide it up beside. It's meant to release a little lip catch here, which enables you to pull this out. Well, there's no gap to go up here at all, and this is completely different, and there's also no lips here. So normally got like a little tiny tooth that digs in, and as you slide the thing down, it releases the tooth up and enables you to pull the actual filter out. I don't have that. And this also looks completely different. I've still got to get this taken off. So that comes off earth strap that goes on the back of here gets taken off, and this should pull out. Now, you can't remove this from this. You can, but you've got to get that clip there as well as 2 others around the other side off in order to pull the whole thing down. And as you know, sometimes these things go brittle, so I'm very reluctant to try and pull this off and deal with this afterwards. And as you can see, I've removed the whole unit itself. So this is what you're pulling out of this round hole. As you pull this up, you're pulling this whole thing out, including the float as well. So it's an absolute bloody ball ache. And obviously this is full of petrol, this is full of petrol, and you've obviously, whilst you're inside the car, you've got to try and get everything poured out so you don't leak petrol bloody everywhere. And petrol does, when you start opening and it start filling up here, and it goes underneath here, and I thought it would leak down the back and come out the bottom of the car, and it doesn't. So whatever leaks inside that car lands up staying in the car. So be very mindful that if you're going to do this, you literally have to make sure you've got less than half a tank, otherwise you're going to have the same problems I've had. So I have actually used my wife's turkey fat thing, and I've been sucking up obviously the petrol and squeezing it out as and when it leaks. So that's what we've dealt with so far, but it won't last a lot longer. This will end up perishing, as does everything else. As soon as you put, I mean, these gloves are small, and as soon as you put them in the petrol, they just literally give immediately. So we're in a bit of a predicament at the moment. I'm trying to find online, how do I mean, I can't separate mine. Some people separate their filter from their pump, but mine's actually got a holding strap on it, which obviously stops it coming apart and you dropping this part into the tank. So I could cut it, but as you can see, it stops it from coming apart. Now, what a lot of people are doing at the moment, obviously, is cutting that cable, separating these 2 off, and then dealing with this afterwards, and then putting them back in and sliding it in. But I'd rather keep that on if I could. Not that it's essential. But I may have no choice in a minute, because I've really got to try and find out how do I get this off? And I can't afford to damage this, because if I damage it and it is the wrong filter, then I'm stuffed. I'll actually have, you know, I have no filter at all. So I'm then going to have to try and order the filter. So anyway, I've taken all the clips off. All these sort of things here is just to try and make sure that it was a little bit more accessible, because as you pull this up and down, these are all in the way. So I've just removed these for now, but there's 2 clips here. Sorry, 2 clips here that you can undo very easily. There's obviously the straps underneath here. This comes off of here if you do struggle like I am to get that one off. So again, and then obviously if you wanted to, you could clip this retaining line, and this whole thing would separate away from these 2 legs. I think I may have to do that in a minute anyway. Again, like everyone says on the tank lid, just draw a line so that, you know, this sits in one place anyway, so you know where it's going to sit. But then once it's sat down, you want to make sure the line itself and your retainer ring land up having the line, so eventually they'll do up to the point where they're level. So that's been done. I just need to find out how I can try and deal with what in effect is a lack of clips and a potential different filter. As I say, it was actually dealt with, you know, it was given, I gave the chassis number and registration number, and everyone online that's doing these filter changes does seem to be sort of showing the same filter. So obviously it goes up like that way. So as you can see, the same sort of thing at the bottom, just a lot thinner and a lot longer. Anyway, so I'll update you as I go to see if I have any more luck. And as it is, I still don't even know if this is going to solve the issue. I'm just thinking my main issue at the moment is that the car is lumpy and for some unknown reason is conking out, and it doesn't want to restart. So something's stopping the fuel from getting to the pistons. I would have thought if it was a sensor problem, something like that, then some form of error code would come up on the dashboard. I've also got the little, is it the OBD port? I've plugged that in, there's no errors. So the only thing I can think of at the moment is just bad fuel, and the full filter that's in there is either old or clogged or just needs replacing. So I'm hoping that changing that, if I can change it, will solve the problem. If it doesn't solve the problem, then what else could it be? Let me know in the comments below if you think you know what it could be. If there's anybody on here that's Audi, is anyone I can call, anyone that can recommend anybody I can reach out to? But at the moment, as I say, I'm pretty sure it's only the tank, the filter in the tank, and then a line all the way until obviously the electronic ignition and the little wastegate openers and all that sort of stuff. So I would have thought it's reasonably straightforward. I wouldn't have thought the jets would all get blocked. You know, these cars are pretty advanced nowadays, so I would have thought any form of slime or grit or something coming through a tank, I wouldn't have thought it would actually make the whole car run lumpy. And I say, 3 or so weeks ago when it did it the first time, it's fired up fine and it's operated absolutely fine since. So is it an intermittent problem? Or is it a little bit more grit that's got down the, or dirt that's got down the lines and obviously is actually blocking the jets? So let me know in the comments below. I'll carry on work on this. Fingers crossed I can get this done. I'll load this one for now, so if you do know anything, let me know, and then I'll do a follow-up video if I don't record on this one on how I'm getting on. Thanks for watching. Okay, section 2, part 2. Okay, so we've literally taken everything apart, float-wise, put it all back in as you've seen. The filter housing looks completely different to the filter we actually had. So, as you saw, forgive me if I'm duplicating what I said, but obviously this filter, as you can see, in fact, let me get it out of the box so you can actually see it better. This one doesn't fit. In fact, it's in a sealed bag. This one doesn't actually fit. As you can see, it's quite long and thin. Doesn't fit in the one that's actually in the car now. So it looks like you potentially have to change the top half that connects into the hole itself, which is where the filter housing is. It looks like that one doesn't actually come out. So I can't find anything on social media to tell me how I actually remove that filter. So it looks like it might be sealed, which means you'd have to change the top piece, which I think is about £40 from German and Swedish or one of the guys online. The whole float system itself is between 60 and 250 depending on where you buy it. So I might even upgrade that because the bottom part houses the fuel pump, the top part houses the fuel filter. But anyway, let me spin you around and show you one of the things that I've done that wasn't good so you can learn from my mistake. Like I said, if you've got half a tank of fuel, you're already pretty screwed because this tank, as you can see, is at an angle, and the tank itself, as you can see, the tank actually follows the actual seat itself. So as you fill the car up with fuel from here, the tank itself fills right up to the bottom of this piece here, which is the high point. Obviously that gets used down. So I was just over half a tank and I was still over this bottom edge. So as I undid this, the petrol was leaking out into here and then flowing underneath here. As you can see, this little grommet. I don't know where this grommet, what it connects to, but I couldn't get it out. But I assume you can take that out somehow and suck out from underneath. So at the moment, I've got a smell of fuel in it. As you can see here, I left it with a sheet over, didn't realise. When I came back, this had all gone soft and the petrol had really started melting that down. So, yeah, fuel comes into this little piece here and goes underneath and sits underneath here and nothing drops out from underneath. So I've left it out to let it breathe because at the moment it does smell. I cleaned up all the connectors, put everything back together again. Still had exactly the same problem. So I haven't changed the filter, so I thought it could still be the filter. What I did in the meantime is I came to the front and stared at this longingly, trying to see whether some form of creativeness would come to my mind, and it didn't. So I just literally undone the 4 bolts holding the filters on, undid this circlip here, undid this circlip, which I've still got to put on probably. Same on this side, and removed these 4 pieces, including the breather hose to the head on both sides. And also there's a tube underneath that connects to here, underneath these 2. So I disconnected those. And then what I did is I actually got hold of the actual the injector, I don't even know what they're called. It's like a little actuator that obviously, as you accelerate, opens up and allows air to be sucked through. And I blew all those through with carburetor cleaner. I also blew carburetor cleaner up this pipe here, which was quite black because obviously this is connected to the breather of the head. And I also did this one as well. And technically dried it with a cloth and put it all back together again, and it fired up and it's been fine. So my problem, the lumpiness obviously and the stalling of the car, which yesterday just didn't seem to rectify itself, seemed to be rectified either by me doing this or fuel finally getting through from the back. So I don't know which one it was. All I do know is when I put it back together again from the rear, it still was exactly the same. It would start and then just conk out. And it kept on doing that. So I stopped it, and I also get like a funny coloured smoke coming out the back and a very unique smell. I've never smelt it before. It's like a burning stroke electrical smell. So it clearly wasn't getting fuel. But again, I don't know if it's the fuel filter that's restricting the fuel getting through or if it's something over here. So I'm in Barbados, by the way, and the petrol here is really dirty. It's not a good petrol. I mean, the petrol I took out, as I showed you on the video, very cloudy, loads of bits in it. So certainly not a great fuel here. So whether that's actually causing a problem with regards to this unit here clogging up, but I would say the next thing I need to do is I need to remove this whole unit here. So obviously it's quite a big job, but it's removing this piece and getting these completely soaked and cleaned out, these two. Because it could be that's what's causing the issues with obviously the fuel and air mixture coming in. I mean, here's the fuel here, obviously. This is fuel. So something to do with here backwards might be causing the problem. So I definitely think that's what we need to do. Is the next course of action is taking these off and giving them a soak and getting it put back on again. It looks like I'm gonna have to remove this, and then it looks like they're all connected from the rear here. So we should be able to take those off and give them a damn good soak in some form of fuel or carburetor cleaner, and then put them back on again. But anyway, obviously doing whatever we did yesterday has managed to solve the problem temporarily. But as you know, it's nothing worse than not knowing whether you've sorted it or not. Is it going to happen again? So in the back of my car, I've got drills, screwdrivers, carburetor cleaner, anything I could think of where I might have to take this apart yet again. I say those little tiny, in that porthole itself, you have a round steel disc, and as you accelerate, it opens and shuts, and that obviously allows the air to drag through and the fuel to drag through. That's all I did, was obviously just open up manually, squirt through, give it a wipe, and then so I've not done anything technical, but it seems to have dislodged and got it sorted. So fingers crossed it is actually sorted, but I'll report back to you as and when I know more. Apart from that, I think I am going to order a new pump and filter housing. Certainly one that takes those two filters that I've got, because obviously then I can take them out and replace them once every now and then. If the fuel is bad here, which it is, then at least I'll be able to change that filter once every, well, I'd probably say once a year if it's bad fuel. I mean, most people say just leave it for its life until you have any problems, don't change it. But I know I'm in a bad fuel area, so in order to make sure this is getting the best fuel possible, that filter's gonna have to work overload. So that one is fixed, I can't change it, so I need to put a housing in there where I can change the filter on a regular basis, and that might obviously help it. And in the meantime, just obviously regularly, just make once every 6 to 12 months, maybe just take these apart, give it a damn good blow through with carburetor cleaner, and maybe once a year, once every 2 years, just take them off and give them a damn good soak and make sure we get them completely de-done. So fingers crossed what we've done is going to work. I'll update you a little bit later on, but I will put this video up. Any questions, obviously hit me on the comments below. And if it's any help to you guys, obviously please give me a thumbs up. They'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.